Hi, it's Cameron Reynolds, and tonight I'm doing a live chat at 7 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be talking all kinds of stuff about honeybees, prepping for winter here in Tennessee, what we're doing. Bring your questions, also Bee Expo stuff, and more. So hope to see you there, 7 p.m. Central Time tonight. And there's just bees all over the place. I just condensed this hive down into one 6-frame box. These are the 6-frame boxes I got from Miller Bee Supply. They made these for me, and now they've got some for sale. I really like them a lot. It's a good size, and they make good woodenware. So there's a bunch of bees in here. This is really good. Now, we could have kept them in 2 6-frame boxes, and that would have been okay. It really would have, but it's not as ideal, and I'll tell you why. When condensation forms, it's typically because the lid or the inner cover is cold. Well, guess what? When I put a piece of Reflectix over this after I'm done feeding, and I have this inner cover, and then I have the metal lid on top, the telescoping cover, these bees are going to keep that plenty warm. We have no brood right now, and so this is the winter cluster right here. The majority of it. I think by the time we have maybe a little bit more die-off, we'll have about 5 frames of bees in here, which is great. They're going to really regulate this space. They're going to regulate the more than just the temperature. They're going to regulate also CO2 and various other things. There's a lot to overwintering, and when bees really dominate the space, it is preferable. And so they're going to keep that lid warm. That condensation isn't going to start being created until it hits the cold walls, because the bees will constantly be bringing up a hot, warm air, bit of warm air, and that lid's going to be warm, and so it's going to go over here and condense down and drip harmlessly away from the cluster. And these bees also will have the advantage of, if we need to feed them in February on a 50-degree day, they're going to be able to really keep things warm, and they'll be able to take the feed a lot better. They're going to be able to brood a lot better with this, as opposed to having a lot of spare space. But they totally would overwinter with 2 boxes. I don't have to worry about that second 6-frame box getting damaged with wax moss, though, because it's November. And it's getting cold enough, it's not a problem. And wax moss won't be an issue for me in Tennessee until we get to about April, probably late April, May. So by then, all of that wax will already be used up. Something else will be on it. These young nucs we made up in these new queens and splits in July, and they look really good. They would look a little bit better if our fall flow was a little bit more generous, but we did our best. There's about 4 frames of food. I'm going to feed them a little bit more to give them about 5 frames of actual food. We don't want them plugged out. You don't want this just solid honey or syrup, because the bees, when they really have an ideal cluster, they've got to be able to get into the combs, the empty ones in the center, where they've consumed the food, or there's just a little bit of space, and they're going to put their bodies head first into those cells and form a cluster around that, and they're able to make a more dense cluster and warm that hive up really good. So that's ideal. You don't want to pack them out too much. There's just tons of bees in here, which is great, and it'll be just much easier for us to get them fed. Now, one of the crucial things I want to do is to use some oxalic acid vapor. They're broodless, so we're going to do 2 rounds when it's above, ideally upper 40s at the lowest, and 50 degrees, 60 degrees. If you get those temperatures, in Tennessee you totally will when they're broodless, do this 2 times. 1 time might be good enough, but 2 times definitely works great. And guys like Bob Benny do it 3 times just to be extra good. This is a time to really get those mites all the way down, have these bees cleaned up. With a young queen that's not worked too hard, this can do a lot of things for us. This is strong enough. As long as we have comb, it'll be a honey production colony. If we have a need to sell more nucs, we have too many bees, we can raise this up to 2 6-frame boxes, and then I'm going to sell a 5-frame nuc out of it to somebody. And then we are going to make another nuc out of it, and we'll sell it or keep it. This is sustainability for us right here, is these young queens in these small nucs, and they're a lot of fun to handle. They're not as heavy, especially in summertime, easy to manage, easy to fool with. Laurel and I really like the smaller nuc boxes, but I like the 6 frames because we can put a frame feeder in them. I also have a divider with these Miller ones in here to where we can actually stick some either political signs down in here or whatever, you know, the Cash Express signs, they're always stapling on our trees without our permission. We'll just rip them off, cut them up, slide them down in there, and now I can raise a queen on this side and a queen on this side as long as I have a piece of either canvas or reflectix over the top. So it's a multifaceted tool right here, and you can make honey on these, and it's nicer in my opinion with the 6 framers because they're a little bit wider, not as narrow as a 5-frame nuke that could fall over. I mean, it's still you know, not as wide as a 10-frame, but there's a lot of different ways to keep bees, and the main thing that bees want is plenty of food, good queen, low mites, great queens, dead mites, and good nutrition. So we'll talk about it more in tonight's live chat, 7 p.m. Central Time. Just remember, when in doubt, nuke them out. See you in the next video.